We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us, talking about the Conviction Review Unit here in Davidson County. Sunny Eaton heads that up. And I was going to kind of pitch Sunny, who's joining us on Zoom. I mean, your department may have to expand. You may have to hire some investigators. I'd like to apply.
We'd have a job for you, Nick. Channel 5 has done a lovely job covering these stories. Levi Ismail did a beautiful job covering Miss Watkins' Dunn story.
He sure did. And he's in our I team. He'd be better suited than I would for that. But they make for quite the story to tell. And it raises awareness that this is out there. And that's where every time I see a story like, Joyce's, I think to myself, how many other Joyces are out there? And as we sit here talking right now, I mean, you can't put a number on it, but not just out of Davidson County, but statewide or even nationally. How many, it's got to be in the hundreds, maybe thousands that are serving time right now unjustly. And keep in mind, you say, Nick, all that. I mean, there are, hundreds of thousands that are doing time. And yeah, they did it and they're exactly where they belong. But how many innocent folks are still out there? Does that get to you like, gosh, I need to move faster because there's another Joyce out there. And to think that there's another Joyce like her sitting behind bars just makes me sick.
It does. Even though I do believe that wrongful convictions are rare, if you take even the most conservative estimate of 1%, and I think most estimates are between 1 and 10%, but even the most conservative of 1%, that is still thousands of people. It is hard for me to have a Saturday. It's hard to leave work at a decent hour and not think about what we could be doing more. And again, I feel very lucky to work for General Funk because he puts high priority on this and lends me whatever resources in the office I need to do this work. That's a commitment that we're not seeing yet nationwide, although it's growing. When the unit in Nashville started, there were only 25 conviction review units in the entire country. Now, 2 years later, there were 25 when this unit started. There were 75 when I took over our unit, and there are 105 now.
Wow.
So that's significant growth, but there are 2,700 district attorney's offices in the country.
Yep.
And National Registry of Exonerations released their numbers last week. There were 161 exonerations in this country last year. Of that 161, 60% of those came about through internal conviction review units of DA's offices. So there is a clear need for this work if we want to fix these tragedies.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the rub. I mean, you've got these offices, and the primary goal of the district attorney's office, the main one, of course, is justice and putting or prosecuting those who have committed crimes. But that's the thing. The job is not, even though it should be, as what you do, exonerating, it's to prosecute and put people away. And that's where the lion's share of the resources go.
I have to disagree that that's the primary job. I think that that is the primary arm of the office, but our job is to seek justice in whatever form that takes. That is our job. We represent the people of the state of Tennessee, all of the people. And our job is to get it right, no matter what that costs us in time, in money, in commitment. We have to get it right, or we are not doing our job and serving the people.
Yeah, no, and I do agree. As I said, I think justice is the #1 goal. But you know as well as I do that the vast majority of resources go to prosecution, not exoneration. That's just the way it is.
Well, that's because in the vast majority of cases, we believe we've gotten it right.
Right. But I mean, yeah, every day there's prosecutions. I think you need a larger staff because we know there's a history there that needs to be reviewed, but that's just the way it is. I don't know what will change that. I mean, if you put that to the voter, they're going to say, yeah, we want justice and we want people exonerated if they're unjustly accused. But does that mean we're not going to have as many resources going toward the prosecution of bad dudes? People aren't going to go for that.
It doesn't, because remember, again, many of these crimes are violent crimes, and if we've got the wrong person, we don't have the right person. So these are the same resources. These are the same ones. We want to make sure that we get violent criminals off the street and that they're held accountable. We do not get that when we convict innocent people.
No, that's exactly right. But you would say the vast majority. I'm wondering, when you get a case, say, from the Innocence Project on Joyce, early on you probably looked at it and you're realizing, okay, we've got work to do on this. But you must have realized pretty early on, hey, it's sure looking, based on what I'm seeing here, that Joyce was incorrectly convicted. And yet, you still had to, I don't know how many months it took before you could finally get to the point where we saw her in court being cleared by the judge. That must be frustrating when in your mind you've seen this, you know it, you've got to work it, but there's a real process you have to go through. Once you think you have a strong case, how long does it really take before they finally walk out of prison free?
That varies. It really does. Joyce's case, we were able to move along so quickly, and it was quick in Joyce's case. I mean, I believe from start to finish, from us receiving that case until our report is done. Now, there's some things that we don't have control over, court schedules,
Sure.
expert schedules, things like that. But for us, our report was completed in just over 2 months, and that is frankly lightning speed,
Sure.
and that is due to Glenn Funk giving us the resources that I requested, because this one became so clear so quickly. We knew we could not delay. We did not want Ms. Watkins to spend another Christmas as a convicted sex offender.
Yeah, that is good to hear that it could move that fast when you have a strong case. That's fantastic. Let's go to Joanne. Joanne, good morning. Hi, Joanne. Are you there, Joanne? I think I hit that. Joanne, are you there? We'll come back to her. Let's go next to Kathy. Kathy, good morning. Hi, Kathy.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm doing great. I was just wondering, sir?
Yeah, go ahead. Just talk to us on the phone.
Good morning.
All right. Explain to her she has to talk to us on the phone. Let's go back and see if Joanne's there. Joanne, are you there? Well, look, we've got these phones and they're not working, so whatever. Listen, as we wrap things up here, just moving forward, Sunny, your department, do you have hope then that it's going to expand? And I'm also curious whether or not, as you say, a lot of other DA's offices may be looking at that. Do you hear from other DAs, maybe talking with General Funk or you, just about how to set something this up? That I would think after, the national publicity the Watkins case received, maybe some have taken notice and say, we probably have some Watkinses in our history. We'd like to do the same. What do you see happening on that front?
Yes, we are committed to assisting other district attorneys' offices who want to set up units like these. There have been pushes by the community in other cities to do this, and we want to support those efforts because we believe this is essential. Now, our first priority from resources has to be our cases here in Davidson County, things that we actually have the power to do things about. But we believe in this effort, and General Funk believes in this effort, and he is committed to helping wherever we can. I also firmly believe, and he has indicated, that our resources will expand. Over the next coming years, we hope to get into much broader review. I know that we will. We've already gone down that road. We've begun it. But the cooperation and the collaboration with other offices is also crucial to doing this work. As I said, we get a lot of applications from other jurisdictions. And right now, we refer those to the Innocence Project, but we would love to refer those cases to other conviction review units in district attorneys' offices.
Sure. And can you give me an idea, you're right, they all come to you and you probably have it on. How many active cases do you kind of look at right now? What do you have? How many do you have?
I have 17 cases in active review right now. 17.
And do they date? I mean, obviously the Watkins case went back decades. Some of these that you're looking at, can some of them be fairly recent, or what's the span? How far back? I know you don't pick and choose. It doesn't matter how far back, but I'm just curious. What range timeline do you have?
I believe that the current most recent case that I have in review happened within the last 2 years.
Within the last 2 years, and then others can go. Would you say it is, I don't want to use the word easier, but are there advantages to more recent cases as opposed to obviously having to go back maybe 2 decades?
Sure. I mean, when we're going back 2 or 3 decades, which is the majority of the cases that we look at first, by the way, because any office has to triage. There has to be some level of that. It wouldn't matter if we had a staff of 40. For the number of applications we get, there has to be some method of prioritization. And we certainly want to give that priority to someone who has lived with a conviction for 30 years over someone who's lived with one for, say, 6 months. The mountain of tragedy that piles on cases every day they go by really sits with us. But when something is clear, I don't care if it happened last week. we will look at it. But as far as resources, yes, it is always easier. There's more evidence available. Witnesses are still available. Sometimes when we're looking at cases 30 years old, evidence is gone or has degraded. Witnesses may not be around anymore, or we might not be able to find them. People's memories degrade. Now, there are also benefits that we have in these cases, like we have advanced science. We sometimes have better testing techniques or better understanding of how witnesses should be interviewed. So it's a mixed bag.
Gotcha. Sunny, thank you so much for coming on. This was great. I learned a ton and really appreciate what your office does. I think it's fantastic. And tell the general, yeah, I think it's great. And keep up the good work, all right? I look forward to the next case that comes forward, all right? Appreciate you coming on.
Have a nice day.
Take care. We'll take a programming break. I'll be back to wrap things up right after this. Thanks again to Sunny Eaton with the DA's office.